Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. I'm so excited to have my friend on today, Ike Ramos. Ike, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody kind of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of yours and see you as a friend and a brother and just an inspiring educator as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ike Ramos. I'm a hip hop artist turned teacher turned principal and now a director at Nearpod and Flocabulary, where I get to kind of merge my two passions, education and hip hop and technology, three passions. And so yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and that pretty much is my life in a nutshell. And of course, we can dive deeper, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But
Yeah, I've got so many to dive into here because I just love how you're just flippantly like rapper turned teacher, principal, director. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't think that all these things go together. But let's start back at the beginning. So when you were growing up,
yep,
was rapper always like your ultimate dream? Like, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I did fall in love with hip hop culture really early on. I grew up in Texas. My mom was in a Tejano band, so she was big into Spanish music. My dad was into classic rock and other genres of music. So I fell in love with music in general early on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have pictures probably from when I was 3, 4 years old, like breakdancing and stuff already. So it probably, I mean, nothing about my trajectory has really kind of been normal or
Right.
predictable. Like I give a lot of the credit to hip hop and its ability to penetrate just pretty much any area of the globe, and the fact that it found me at 3, 4 years old in Texas, in a household that wasn't the main genre.
Right.
It's just crazy to me. So that passion started developing early on. Like a lot of just average hip hop listeners, it was like whatever I heard in movies or on the radio was kind of what, was popular for me. But I had a cousin introduce me to kind of a different style of hip hop, probably around age 10 or 11. And it was like hip hop, more like something you would hear from like a Common or a Mos Def or Lauryn Hill. And so at an early age, I was lucky enough to be exposed to that. And they had an emphasis more on the lyrics and on the content and social awareness in their music.
Yeah.
So I found that style early on, and it pretty much shaped everything after that. So started getting into writing lyrics, making beats, DJing, all of that stuff.
So how in the world does that lead to you becoming a teacher?
Yeah, so I ended up going to UT Austin, Hook 'em Horns, for my undergrad. And, I was really just excited to be there so I could like meet other people that were really into hip hop and music. I went in actually pre-med because,
Wow.
like a lot of kids, especially from humble beginnings, you're uh, told that being a lawyer and being a doctor is kind of the ticket out, right?
Yeah.
And so I went in pre-med. I love science, so ended up sticking with biology for a while. But I just didn't think that was going to be my calling long term. And so I started gravitating more towards things that I had done even as a high school student. So like, which was more education centered. So in high school, I was like, in Texas, I think it might be statewide or maybe it's nationwide, but we had the PALS program. So I had always been a mentor for students and a tutor. I coached little league basketball when I was in high school. And so when I got into college, some of the similar opportunities came my way. So I got asked to be a tutor for peers in the same program that I had enrolled in at UT. So I started doing that, started working with like the social work department and mentoring kids. And so I really like got drawn back into just education and supporting the youth.
Yeah.
And so I ended up majoring in Spanish with a minor in biology, thinking that, well, I got to get out of here, like, before this, I go crazy with this music, get too distracted. So I was like, I'm gonna do my music, I'm gonna get my degree, and we'll see where that
Yeah.
goes. And so right after I graduated, I still wasn't crystal clear. And I had a family member say, hey, I know somebody in the school district, like, what do you think about being a teacher?
Uh-huh.
And they were like, you've always done mentoring and things like that. And I was like, well, let's give it a shot. And so I'll say I was in love with education, but I
Right.
didn't necessarily think that, I would develop this passion for teaching and
Right.
kind of education in the school as we know it.
Well, you made an interesting comment there. You minored in Spanish whenever you were in college, you said. And so
Uh-huh.
my question then is thinking, you've still got a rap career. I mean, you're still out there rapping, doing shows and stuff. Do you ever rap in Spanish?
I have some raps in Spanish. My definitely my preference is English when it comes to like writing songs. It's just my vocabulary is more robust, and
Right.
it comes a little. That's what I grew up listening to. But I definitely, and even more so now, I'm working on some projects where I'm really trying to tap back into that.
Hmm.
Um, and tap back into the type of music that I grew up on, and just kind of try to connect the dots. So
Yeah.
I might have some more Spanish raps out there soon, but I
Hey,
definitely
there we go.
have.
There we go. So, you then moved from a teacher to becoming an administrator, and so, making that leap from classroom teacher to administrator, what do you feel like was something you really learned about yourself through that process?
Um, Man, for me, it was almost kind of like a spiritual experience. So for me personally, I learned a lot about faith
Yeah.
and trust. I also learned that we're never really ready to be,
Mhm.
the leader that we think we need to
Right.
be. Um, but we got to do it. And if you have that calling on your life and you're feeling it and others are affirming it, you really owe it kind of to the world and to yourself to run with that.
Yeah.
And so I think, I mentioned faith and hope, and kind of the biggest takeaway, I think, if I had to pick one, is just being the leader. I learned early on that I'm going to have to be the leader that I expect others to be. I can't count on mentors and, other people to do the work for me. And I can't count on them to be perfect or the type of leader that I want to be. Like, I have to learn from the good, the bad, the ugly, and then be that leader that I think is the right leader that kids deserve, that teachers deserve.
I love that. I love the idea that what you just said there about not waiting on somebody to be that person for you, but you being to others what you wanted to see in yourself. And so I think that's a powerful realization. And so at some point, obviously, you make the decision to jump on over to vocabulary, and anybody who is a fan of vocabulary will they know you without even realizing maybe that you right now are the guy who does the raps, a lot of them for vocabulary. And so how did that opportunity to kind of take your passion of education and combine it with music, like how did that even open up to you?
So let me backtrack a little bit because it's kind of funny. So, I was kind of skeptical at first about mixing hip hop and education. So even as a
Yeah.
teacher, like, I had some rules and raps, I had things like that, and I taught high school, and I would, like, every now and then do a little rapping for the kids, and so I would kind of tease out there that I like kind of test the waters that I had this skill and this passion,
Mhm.
but I didn't just ever go full speed with it.
Yeah.
While I was a teacher, one of my students actually saw a music video on TV, and it was like local Austin TV network, like a local VH1, right? And
Uh-huh.
so she was like, "Mr. Ramos, are you a rapper?" And I denied it because the content of my music wasn't negative,
Right.
but I did, like, I did discuss things like social justice and
Mhm.
equity, and this was
Yeah.
years ago, but I was already kind of addressing that in my music. And as we know, that can make some folks uncomfortable.
Right.
And so, you're trying to push the status quo. So I just kind of felt like it was safer to keep things separate.
Yeah.
But students saw it. They saw it a few more times to where it was kind of undeniable that, because at first I said it was a cousin. And, just tried to deny it. And then eventually they found it on YouTube. It kind of went viral in the school. So it was because of this passion for music that I ended up even becoming a principal in the first place. I got called into the office. I literally thought I was going to get fired for the kids seeing this music video on TV. And it was active. All the teachers were showing it on their projectors. And so, but on the contrary, I basically got called to the office and I left that meeting as the principal for the next school year.
Wow.
And this was like, I had to like rush into a grad school program, get emergency certification. I was like stacking up on hours, all of that, right? So then I become a principal and I'm not using really the hip hop stuff.
Yeah.
Even though they largely were like, you do this thing and the kids like it and it connects with them, like you need to leverage it more.
Yeah.
I wasn't really doing it. And, the superintendent said, what do you think we hired you for? Like, you got this passion, this gift, like, you're not even using it at all, really, So he was like, we're through the ACE program, 21st Century Grant, we had an after school program. And he was like, would you do an after school rap class? So I started doing that for the kids. And then they started going back into school, into the classrooms the next day and you reciting the raps. And then so the teacher started saying, well, can you write me a rap about fractions or something, right? And so so from that, it progressed to like, well, maybe, I've written so many raps for kids, for teachers, with them, etc. I should really like look into starting a business or something like, to help more kids. And I Googled educational hip hop and I found Flocabulary. And so I was like, they had a legit system up. So, I was like, they already have the platform. Let me just join them.
Yeah.
So I submitted a song to them. And they loved it, and they were like, "We definitely want you to write raps." It was actually a rap I had written to get kids ready for the STAR test in Texas. And so I said, in the email I sent to them, I said I wrote this for my school, and they thought I was a student. So for like a year and a half, yeah, I told you it's crazy. So
that is hilarious.
So for like a year and a half, I'm writing raps for Flocabulary, and they think I'm a student, and then, like, I don't know, probably the 10th or 12th one I sent them, they called and they were like, man, we just had to call you. Like, we really love this last song that you sent. Yeah. And they're like, what are your plans after school? And it was like made like, into the school year. And I was like, well, I sent the teachers home today. Like, it's officially the last day, but I got to stick around for a couple more weeks. And they're like, what do you mean you sent I was like, I'm the principal, like, and they're like, what? They're like, we thought you were like a high school student, like getting ready to graduate.
That's amazing. I had no idea about this story.
Yeah, man. And so literally like a month after that conversation, I ended up coming on full time with Flocabulary. It was just good timing, the end of the school year, like no conflicts or anything like that. And so, I ended up coming on full time with Flocabulary, more on as a director on the sales side, but still writing songs for them. So it was a crazy little journey.
That is hilarious. So, do you have a favorite song that you've written for Flocabulary?
Probably my favorite in terms of the music and the lyrics is Volcanoes. It's a newer one. Mm-hmm. My wife got to sing the chorus on it. I always try to twist her arm and get her in the studio to record with me. And so, she got on that song. It's just, I feel like the beat is really cool. The lyrics are really cool. Yeah. And so that's my favorite song overall. Yeah. Now, my favorite video is probably the United Nations.
That's a good one.
I also got to get my wife on that. But that one we got to the video at the United Nations.
I was gonna say, I remember when that song, when I saw a video of you performing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So basically, what happened is we wrote a song about the UN, the
Hmm.
good, the bad, the ugly, educational, right? We're not
Yeah.
being biased. We're
Yeah.
told the history, you know, and so they were like, we love it, but we can't really promote the negative, even if it's true, you know. Like they're like, no, it's true, it's out there, it's educational. Like share it by all means, but we're not trying to air our dirty laundry. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're trying to focus on the positive and move forward. They're like, so we said, well, we'd really love to shoot a music video for it here.
Hmm.
And so they were like, well, if you guys can do, if you guys will do a song for us on the sustainable goals, or 17
Hmm.
sustainable goals, basically the goals for the world, right? They're like, if you guys can do a
Yeah.
song about that, then you can also shoot the video here. And so we did it. I ended up doing the raps for that sustainable development goals song. And then maybe like 6 months down the road, it was International Peace Day. And at this point, we had done 2 songs, you know, our own educational one for them for the sustainable development goals. We had already shot the video there. And then we got the invite to come perform the sustainable development goals song on International Peace Day. And that's probably the footage you've seen where we're actually
Yeah.
performing, you know, there in front of a big audience. And it was like different delegates from all over the world.
So cool.
Leonardo DiCaprio was there, and Stevie Wonder, and just like a weird audience. Michael Douglas, I think, my introduction. um, Ban Ki-moon, I think he's the president of Vietnam or something. He did
Uh-huh.
the intro too, and because they were teasing me for a while, because he said up next to the stage, Ike Ramos. And so I was EK to the vocabulary team for about 2 years.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine.
I think I just shook that recently.
That is hilarious. I wish I would have known this story before you came and did Get Your Lead On Denver, because I totally would have introduced you as that at Get Your Lead On in Denver.
EK
Um,
Ramos.
That's right. Well, Ike, you've also got a little son who is a burgeoning rapper as well. You shared on Instagram a little video of him just kind of laying down some beats, some lines to some beats that you had. And so, what has being a father kind of taught you about yourself too?
Man, so you know, I'm a spiritual guy. I'm pretty open about that,
Yeah.
and I feel like when I say things to him, I feel like this is what it must be like with God trying to talk to me. And so I've learned to have a lot of grace with him, because I definitely haven't been, I definitely made a lot of mistakes in my journey.
Of course.
And I feel like God has really had a lot of grace on me. I mean, obviously I was able to become a teacher, a principal, like have an awesome professional career. And, I don't take credit for all of that. I have, I try to have a lot of humility in that approach and see, a lot of those opportunities to me were blessings, and,
Mhm.
either, him working directly or working through people,
Yeah.
for my benefit. And so I really try to have that same type of grace with him.
Mhm.
And because I see a lot of myself in him. I'm
Yeah.
an August birthday. I'm a Leo, stubborn, and he is the same exact way. I'm August 13th. He's August 4th. Wants to do every single thing his way. And I've learned to, this is, I say this all the time, but we're just trying to shade those
I think I may have
and
lost.
so
Wait, there you are. I
we're
lost what you
just
said.
trying to
You
shade
were
those.
saying that he wants to do things his way, and then it broke out. So start from there.
Yeah, yeah. So, we joke at the house, my wife and I, that he just has leadership qualities in the raw
Yeah.
format. So I've learned to, to have a lot of grace and to just walk through him on that journey and not squash his personality,
Right.
because I know, that being stubborn and relentless and wanting to do things, if we can nurture that into being stubborn about what's right, what's
Right.
equitable, about social justice, about doing, taking care of others,
Mhm.
we don't want him to lose that
Yeah.
kind of that zeal and that, and that vigor. So, just trying to, have a lot of grace and have a lot of patience and nurture his God given personality traits.
I love that. Well, Ike, one question I always love to end all these conversations on is I believe, as people, there are a lot of things we hold really close to who we are and what we believe. And so for the people who are watching or listening today, if they were going to walk away with one thing, what is one thing you wish they would walk away with?
If not us, then who? And that's something I share that Get Your Lead on. And that applies in so many different things.
Yeah.
If you're a parent, it's like, if we don't teach our kids the traits and the behaviors and fill them with the knowledge that we want them to have, then who? If you're
Yeah.
a teacher, it's like, if you're not there for your kids, then who is going to be? That goes all the way up and down, any chain. If you're a principal, like, who's going to take care of the teachers? I saw you
Yeah.
post something the other day about, everybody talking about students and what it's going to look like for them with this, with this virus and,
Right.
but not a lot of conversation around teachers, and some of them have underlying illnesses and
Right.
they're worried as well. And it's like, we need leaders who are going to look out for them. And so, again, that it trickles all the way up and it applies to a lot of things, but that would be my main message to leave folks with is, if not us, then who?
I love that. Well, I have been a fan of yours for many years now. I greatly respect you, not only as a leader, but as an educator, as a man of faith, as a father. So you are one of my favorite people, and I was so excited when you agreed to come on. So thank you so much, Ike, for being on Tell Your Story.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I love the show and love what you're doing with your platform. And so keep it up, man.
And thank you, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Ike has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.